Hi there, I'm Lisa Starr of Win Business, and welcome to another episode of StarrCast. You may have been wondering how the wellness movement is working in some other continents, and today we have a guest who is coming from just one of those far-flung places, Kenya. I'd like to welcome Alfrida Boinett. She is the CEO of Private Collection, which owns 7 properties throughout Kenya that are hospitality and wellness oriented. But Alfrida has a varied background, as many of our guests do. So, welcome, Alfrida.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa.
We're happy to have you. So, Alfrida and I met in Africa a couple of years ago. I think you took my course on spa management. And as I got to know you, I realized there was a lot more to you than just a student in a course, and you have a very widely varied background. Did you grow up in Kenya?
Yes, Lisa, I did grow up in Kenya. I grew up in Nairobi, the capital city, and this is where I went to school, both in Nairobi and a bit out of Nairobi.
Hmm.
So after my school, about my A levels, for my A levels, I then went to the UK to study.
And what did you study there?
So when I went to study there, I studied law. So I did a pre law, then I did the main law, and I qualified until I'm a barrister. So I'm a qualified barrister in the United Kingdom. I'm called to the bar.
You're called to the bar. So, did you begin practicing law in the UK?
I did a bit of practicing law in the UK, and then I knew the regulation was going to change at home. So I decided to come back to Kenya. And at that time, I thought dispute resolution was a growing industry that I wanted to get into. So I came back and I did the law school here. I stayed in the UK probably around 15 years before I came back home.
Really?
Yes.
So, was it hard to come back home after being in the UK all that time?
It was no, it felt like a natural progression of sort of my profession because they they look like there were so many more opportunities coming up in Kenya. So when I tried to hedge my bets, I actually thought it would be a short term thing when I was coming back.
You
So
did.
I didn't intend it to be long term. Yes.
I guess it's hard to be away. I mean, when your family and your roots are in a place, it's hard to turn your back on that.
Exactly, exactly. So when I got back, and I had done international human rights law, and so I had also done some work experience in Switzerland with the United Nations Human Rights Commission. So I had a taste of that. So I
Mhm.
knew if I wanted to grow that side of my profession, I would be better off coming back home because this is where it's all happening. So that
Right.
that was my end game plan. Yeah.
So you moved back to where your family was and you began practicing law in Kenya?
Yes, I did. I started practicing law in Kenya. I went to the School of Law, and then I practiced for about 5 years, I think it was, until yeah, I realized I practiced in 2 law firms, which were great and they were big, but they're very. It was very unsatisfying because it was like paper pushing.
Mm.
So I kept thinking, let me leave this. Maybe let me go and look more closer to my NGO roots. So then I joined, and then a friend of mine was doing a startup, which
Mm.
was with this investor who wanted to create a city within a reserve in somewhere in the Rift Valley. And so he needed someone to manage it. So we were going to work with the local community, and we were going to create a bit like a hotel resort together with the local community providing sort of the food and the labor and all that.
Mhm.
But around that time, Kenya was getting its independence. Sorry, was changing its constitution. So as it was changing its constitution, all the local authorities who we had this plan with and had given us approvals were changed and became counties.
Oh no.
Yeah, so all that sort of almost 2 years worth of work, discussing, negotiating, had to go on hold as this new constitution took shape. The constitution essentially devolved sort of government. So yeah, basically they became more powerful than what they were before, but also the demarcations changed. So after about that 2 years, it became, our work was not going to, it's not going to work out anymore.
That's a shame. You feel like you wasted time, but you probably learned something.
I
in that
did,
experience?
I did, because there was a lot of how to structure profitable and CSR work together, sort of, and it had a lot of feel good feelings, and I guess that's why I was in that project,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great. So I learned a lot. So as I was in between things, and then I realized that okay, look, my parents have done the various investments, and they're growing older, and I realized, well, I could do this for them. So I wrote a job description where I made myself group operations, and I told them, you won't have to travel to the different destinations to look at how your business is working. I'll do that for you. So yeah.
That was very clever of you.
It's because I thought, what am I going to do? And I used to write job descriptions for other people before. So that's what I did. And so
And your parents said, great.
yeah, my parents were like, oh, okay. They weren't sure, is this going to be a short-term measure, a long-term measure? But I had a good friend who we had done the NGO together with. It was actually it's a not really an NGO because it had a profit element to it. So my friend had been very instrumental in making me leave the law because she felt that my strengths would have been better utilized in other areas. So she was the one also who told me, why don't you look at your family business, because it's something which I think has enough meat for you to work on. So when I came, I looked at their portfolio and I realized the most probably exciting would be the hospitality, because I was now used to speaking to different people, so I just I naturally fell into it.
You sort of gravitated to that
Exactly.
realm, the hospitality realm.
Yes, yes. And so when I got into the hospitality realm, I thought everything was very organized. I realized, no, it was because the businesses had grown organically. And there was not a lot of structure and a lot of order. So a lot of my earlier journey was trying to set up systems, no, trying to learn about hospitality, this new business, trying to then look at what makes it excellent, and then now trying to see, okay, how can I do some change management? Because a lot of the people who had been in our organizations had stayed there for many years. So that was interesting.
Yeah, they're not too excited about changing things around, are they?
No, they're not. They're not. And they always were like, well, we grew up with you, you were young, so, what are you now telling us? So it was a lot of negotiating and trying to win them over.
How did you do that?
It took a long time. It took a long time because every time we would have discussions and we'd say, this is what we want to change, they will all nod and say, yes, this is true.
Right.
Then they would go to my parents, and then my parents would say, oh, that's fine. And you just do it. Let's carry on. So I then used to live at home. So I started to work on my parents. So I started to get them to understand the various things I had come across, because I went to several business, small short courses as well, because I'm a fan of them. I like 3, 4, 5 days, 1 week. So there's a business school in Nairobi, which I enrolled for like new managers and stuff. So I decided to just go. So every time I learned all this stuff, I realized I would not talk as if it was me telling them what we should do. It was like, this is what I learned, and I think this would be interesting.
Oh, that
And
was a good tactic.
yeah, so they couldn't. Yeah, and I made little short summaries which I would send to my parents. So then they told me, why don't you start like little courses for your managers where you mentor them? So that's the only way I got around. So when I encountered anyone with deep obstacles, I then would try to do like a little one-on-one, let's talk. Let me try and understand, why is it that you want to keep doing what you're doing, and this, why don't we try this other way? So and I gave myself deadlines, because there were several managers. There were not just one, there were several, but they were like cut from the same cloth. So I realized most of them had learned the skill on the job, and not necessarily were they or if they were classically trained, they were not trained, they're not all rounders. So I found sometimes it was very difficult to try and get my ideas across to them. So with some of them, after a year, 2 years, it naturally, the road began to fork, because they were like, this is not going to work. And I then started to look for right thinking people, or people who would think like me in the organization, and
Mm-hmm.
started to plant those seeds. So over like 3 or so years, I started having middle-level managers who are more interested, accountants who wanted to hear a bit more about the order. So then I was ready. So at that point, we then got a consultant in.
Mm.
And he was a guy, he was a great guy, he's a mentor, he's called Anton from South Africa. And he worked with me for about 8 months. So it was like a master's in hoteliering, because he took me from this is how you do costings to this is how you do this is what you should look for in a manager. So it was great. So we ended up, I accelerated the putting of systems in place.
That
We
is
then-
so great when you can use a consultant that way. As
yes.
you say, sort of a master class in your own space on your own project. Tell me how
Exactly.
to do this, and then you learn the best way to manage it. I really
Yeah.
applaud you for sticking with it, because that must have been a difficult journey to
Yeah, very
to get them convinced about your vision.
Yes, yes, it was not easy at all. It was not easy, especially because I realized they all had like a very happy place where they wanted to sit and just say, okay,
Mhm,
everything is working fine. Why
mhm.
should we rock the boat? And I was
Right.
like, no, we need to. This could be better. This could be better. It was true. It was not easy.
I think it's also a challenge sometimes, and you tell me what you think, but when you have an employment group, an employment pool who hasn't really experienced what you're delivering, if they haven't traveled or been a spa or hotel guest, then they don't
Yes.
really get the end product that they're striving for. Do you see that?
Yes, I find that a lot. I find that a lot. Sometimes even it is. I've tried two ways. I've tried to see people who I thought were exposed to some extent, and said, okay, fine, let's try and train these ones, and also try and found people who just had no idea but had good attitude.
Mhm,
So I've just found that the second group was so much easier to work with,
mhm,
because they just had no idea. So showing them little videos of how it's done in other countries, they were more receptive towards it. And then they were not so fixated on, but this is how we did it. And,
mhm.
this
Very
is
true. That's
exactly.
that's so true in HR around the world. I mean, you can train people to do tactics or skills, but you cannot train attitude.
No.
They have to come with that. And if they don't have that, it's just a long slog to get them to see your way, or as you saw, the fork in the road.
Yes, exactly, exactly.
So at
That
this
was
point, how many properties were you managing?
At that point. I was managing three properties,
Mhm.
one in Naivasha, another one in the North Rift, Eldoret, and another one on the coast. What happened is, we are accidental hoteliers.
Mm.
We had set up a property in a prime place in Naivasha, which is
By
near a
the lake?
geothermal plant by the lake,
Mhm.
which is near a plant. What do you call it? It's not very near. It's about maybe an hour away. There's a lot of geothermal activity. So our plan was, why don't we set up this residence where the experts who are going to work there, I think there's some Japanese we bid together with, will have accommodation.
Mm, sure.
So but then our plan was, we'll do this for 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and then we'll get the money off the rent, and then we will then build a conference facility, and then we will just roll into probably some hoteliering. So when they didn't win the bid, we then had to come. We had anyway pretty much done them to quite a high spec. So I started becoming a project manager first, because now it became, what are we going to do? So
Mm.
we had to get in. We had to bring the contractor, have the negotiation, look at the specs of the conference, look at the specs of the restaurant, and all that. So I started first. That's how it went in, and that's where I realized getting in with this consultants was going to be important, because
Mm.
now at least we could have a bigger roadmap as to where we wanted to go.
For sure, especially when you get into food service and some areas you maybe weren't experienced in.
Exactly, exactly. But in our other properties in Eldoret and Mombasa, we had already there used to be our holiday homes, so we converted those. We tastefully made them out, and then we were able to just sort of start the process of what was, when there was no Airbnb, then there was something called holiday homes, like, yeah, just
Mm-hmm.
holiday home. That's what we
Mm-hmm.
let it out as. So it wasn't too difficult in the beginning because everything was more or less running on its own. And once we had to take quite a lot of work to do that first project together, then we sort of knew we will roll out whatever best practices are.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, at that time there were three, and then we then partners in two other ones. Yeah, in the Mara and in Nakuru.
So you were able through that process, it sounds like, Alfrida, to get experience on a new build, though, like
Yes,
starting something from the ground up, which is also very different and important.
exactly.
So what
Exactly.
happens next? You've got now a few, how many? 5 properties?
Yeah, they've got 7 properties now. So the next thing we realized was, how could we add value in them? In one of the properties, there was a children's amusement park,
Mm-hmm.
and an animal park. So naturally, it lends itself more to a resort. So we were like, wellness. The other thing, if you come and your kids are able to play during the day, and you're able to, we have restaurants and stuff there. The natural thing was, why don't we have a place where the moms can come and rest? Because we used to just see them
Sure.
sitting with their kids. So we're like, yeah, let's venture into that. So in Eldoret, we did a full-fledged day spa, which then we thought, oh wow, this is great. It was quite exciting because we got someone to do the drawing, we got the interiors done, and it was very interesting. So we're like,
And there
okay,
was nothing like that
there's
at the
nothing like
time.
that. No,
No.
no, because everything that had been there is in very small spaces in town, which is not what sort of we were looking at. We were like, we have space, we have grounds, it's a nice quiet area, it's a bit of in the outskirts of town, so it makes a lot of sense that you would, if you're coming all the way out here, you'll be coming to relax.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we started. But we had also started there's a property in the park in Nakuru, and it's in a national park. And naturally, when you come on safari, usually most people have done either, part of it is a road safari. You could do a fly safari. Most
Mm-hmm.
people fly into the Mara and then take a road drive to Naivasha and then road back to Nairobi.
Okay.
So even if you do game drives can take you up to like 3 or 4 hours in a car,
Mm.
because that's the only way probably you'll see the game and get as close to them. So most people need sort of little pampering. If not, they just feel tired, if
Mm-hmm.
the jet lag, or they're like, oh, I've been on the road for so long.
And those
So
game drives are early in the morning.
they're very early in the morning. They're very early in the morning. And sometimes then you have like a lot of downtime during the day where maybe you're not very into the pool or something like that. So we'd already started in Nakuru now, because naturally people came from the Mara and they came to Nakuru as their last destination before they came back to fly to Nairobi. Nakuru is
Sure.
about 3 hours away from Nairobi.
Okay.
So when in Nakuru we had started the treatment room. We have one treatment room, and there we're just able to offer, it's a semi enclosed space, so it's kind of open,
Mm-hmm.
and it's on top of a tree. It's like a tree house sort of massage.
Nice.
It's really nice. So and we'd worked out how we could get some, because the problem also of some of the lodges in the parks and stuff are not full all the time. So trying
Mm-hmm.
to find someone who would do beauty therapy and would also maybe be a receptionist for the main
Sure,
hotel
sure.
was a very, yeah. So multi-skilling was a very, yeah, interesting thing to do. So at least by that point, when we got that and we knew that was working well, we decided also at the coast. We would look for someone, but at the coast it's purely open air. That's
Mm-hmm.
how a lot more people do it. Just a bed set up with nice flowers, everything, and then we just have it sort of outdoor, because there it's mostly our clients who started asking for it, because they were like, I've
Mm.
come to relax. Even if it's a self-catered unit, we provide the housekeeping, we provide the food, the chef and everything. So a lot of people who were now thinking, I like the flexibility of coming on holiday, but I don't want to cook, I don't want to clean,
Mm-hmm.
and we have sort of nanny services. So naturally they were like, okay, fine, I want something, some treatments. We started getting groups of girls, groups of ladies, which is a big market in Kenya, who like to travel. So naturally we decided, yeah, when we do that package, would happily incorporate it and see if they liked it. And so we just naturally started bumping into, yeah, because it felt like it was a natural marriage between the hospitality you're offering and that next extension of service, so that they don't think of going anywhere else.
Sure. And it sounds like the clients responded very favoritively to what you did.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. They did. Because also it was partly because in Nairobi, in as much as there were also there's several spas. I realized in the last couple of years, there's a lot of trained masseuse, massage ladies
Hmm.
who offer their services like on Instagram. So you just go there, and someone will be like, okay, So I would go to someone's house, and someone would be like, oh, don't come at this time. I'm having my massage. So when I got like a really good sort of lady, I said, okay, fine, come, let me see what it is. And I realized there are people who've incorporated it into their lifestyle
Hmm.
because it's become inexpensive. And so I was like, okay, there's a market for it then, you
Very
know.
much so. And so, when was that? How many years ago?
That was almost 4 years ago,
Really?
actually. Yeah,
Good. Good. It's
because
good to see that the self care movement wasn't just happening in Western countries. That's good
oh
to
no,
know.
yeah, about 4 years ago, yeah. Yeah. So I realized, yeah, this was something that probably was happening to people, and I was realizing it in a generation there who were like, okay, I want some pampering. I work hard, and yeah. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay. So it will not take away from going to the spa. So they will still go to the spa. Maybe just they'll leave it as a treat for once a month,
Hmm.
but every week they will have a massage. So it's like, okay, there's a yeah,
Yeah.
and
So,
that's
so you could have both. It was possible for both to coexist.
exactly. And now you started seeing people like what we started to do was when I travel, I would make sure I buy my nice bath salts. I'd buy my massage oil or whatever it is, so I could have my home kit and I could have sort of at the spa if I wanted. And I realized it wasn't only me thinking that, because where I go to do my nails, they started selling very high end sort
Mm.
of products. And they're like, we will do this for you, but you can, they're upselling where you can take it home, and yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So it seems there was a growing body of people, because that was in some nice sort of, not a very high end place, but in a very fast move, more in a mall, which has got sort of quite some traffic. So I was like, okay, so this is really beginning to take off. Yeah.
So, do you have people come to the spas at this point who are not guests in the property?
Yes, now
Locals
we do
come?
not, yeah, locals, especially the ones that are in the town. We do get in, especially like the other day, in the Eldoret place. The customers themselves were like, look, we definitely need a steam room and a sauna, because it's not enough. We feel, if you did that, and the reception has been really great, which surprised me. So it seems to be very customer led. It seems they because also, even though that's outside of Nairobi, it's the price point is really low,
Hmm.
and it's an agricultural town, but there's the farmers are fairly wealthy, so you find people who are like, oh, I thought I had to come all the way to Nairobi to get this type of services, but clearly I don't. So that's what we're finding, a lot of people just from the town coming in.
I think we're
And
seeing that around the world, honestly, because massage and facials and body treatments, and it does often start in more urban areas, but
yeah,
people travel and they
yeah.
have those treatments in urban areas, and then they go home, as to your point, and they say, oh, I wish I could have this here and not have to go into the big
Exactly.
city. So
Yeah,
I'm glad to see evidence of that in Kenya as well.
it is. It is. It is.
So what's next for your spas and your hospitality
Yeah. So
businesses? What
what's
do you see
next?
the
What's
future
next?
looking like? Yeah, what is next?
Since we've been having these discussions, I decided I'll be so much more exploratory in finding out what's happening there.
Mhm.
Where is the next trend and where is this going? So I've been very busy on Instagram, not only looking for things I like. So the first thing I thought of was, obviously, the pandemic. I can't wear makeup. Not too much makeup, because I don't want to wear my mask going around. So I thought I'll do my eyebrows. So I went to look, and I discovered, oh, there's so many people doing microblading. So I
Uh-huh.
did my research. I found one person who's got who's trained in the States. So I went to visit her. She was great. She did them. I done the first treatment, and I'm going to go back in another sort of 3 weeks or so, because I was like, if I have a mask, that's all you can see, and it's going to save me makeup time. I'm like,
For
great.
sure.
Sure. So when I spoke to her, she used to have, she studied she studied neuroscience in America. And then she
Goodness.
came back to Kenya, and now she's got a spa, and she's doing microblading. The rest of her spa, she outsources it to other therapists. So she's got 2 treatment rooms. She really has a slot. She has only 3 slots in a day, and you have to pre-book. So I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went and I saw there was a trichologist. So I went to see this lady doing hair. She had a machine. She was searching to see what kind of follicles I have. She's got like a nurse who's in her trichology place. So she can do 2 things. She did 2 treatments for me. One, she then gave me, I was given a head massage for about 40 minutes, a wash and a head massage. And then I had a serum treatment. I don't know what they call it, but they take your serum, they shake it in this machine, and then they inject it in your hair.
They inject it into your, not your scalp, into your
In your
hair.
scalp, in your scalp, in your scalp, in your scalp, in your scalp.
Really?
So many injections. Yeah, tiny ones. I forgot what the name is, but she called it a serum. They put your own serum. So it's your own blood where they've taken serum and they say it stimulates, I don't know what.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. Yeah, there's a whole nurse doing this. I said, okay, this is very interesting. Then my next door neighbor at the office came to look for office space. So when I was talking to her, I asked her, what is it you want to do? She wants to grow from her 2-room treatment room. She wants a bigger space, like next to office. I said, okay, so what, is it that you just want more treatment rooms? She says, yes, and other things. So we are engaging. She gives me her plan, and then she leaves the whole space empty near the windows. So then I said, oh, I see you've not really added the treatment room. She says, no, that's going to be for lounge. It's going to be like a lounge where I'm going to do IVs. For yes. So so all these people, I've more or less befriended them, because ever since I came on the We Work Well conference, I got exposed to all this like the Theraguns and all this other spa accessories and things.
There are so many tools now, handheld tools. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, maybe in Eldoret, what is really big there, and maybe, and also in the safari lodges, it's muscle relaxing, because in the highlands there we have a lot of athletes. So there, I'm just looking for something specific for them, but also for this ladies, because one of the things that got me interested in the microblading, for example, which I thought is something we could do in Eldoret, is this lady has like a training she does. So she goes to different towns. And so she'd done some of the 3 major towns. And so when I was looking at the trend, I said, so when I met her, it was twofold. I wanted to try and find out, why do you go to Eldoret? She says, because I have customers there. And it's not cheap. I mean, I think it's about $300 to do your eyebrows. Yeah, which is, I think, standard in the world. And she says, I have many clients. So I need to go back and do the touch up. And they usually bring others and everything.
That's amazing.
I know. So I decided, with some of these people who are willing to travel already, I don't have to scale up myself. I can get into partnerships first to then make these services available, because people are now are now aligned to the fact that you need to book. Kenyans don't like booking for anything.
They don't like to reserve ahead.
They don't like to reserve anything. But if they understand the scarcity in, for example, time, and from like when I came to your training, your bootcamp training, and you are like, you have to create that artificial sort of, you have to create time slots where you try and push them into almost like you would a doctor's service. So I realized I could work with these different people. So my plan is, I'm going to, before I fully venture into anything, for these people who want to grow their service, I have the facilities. I will then work with them to see how it will go. I'm a bit wary about the medical spa business, because I don't think I understand it. But I'm also now sitting on the the committee creating the Spa and Wellness Association Kenya branch.
Good.
With a couple of ladies who introduced me to. So with that, I think we want to work on creating the standards and sort of standards.
Important. That's so important.
Yeah,
in many
and
parts of the world that you
exactly.
standardize it.
Yeah, because the one thing I remember the lady who was doing my eyebrows told me was, "Do you know that you can get this even for like $80 in Kenya?" I said,
Mm.
"What do you mean?" She says, "Because people are very price friendly, price sensitive." And I said, "But you will find that they're reusing the needles, they're reusing
Oh,
this, it's very unhygienic." So I realized that there is a lot of need to get into to regulate. So I'm now sitting on that committee, hopefully to do twofold, to understand a lot more. So I hope to do a deep dive so that when I know what to do next, we know where we are going to go. In the property that's lakefront, obviously the more softer elements of wellness is what we want to go into. The, come and, have you a better, want to create a better yoga space.
mm,
We do great food, but maybe do some more tailor-made like food, like maybe work with people who, come for like a wellness retreat, because I see that market is also growing now, where you get people who want to come during the week when it's not easy to get customers.
right.
So, I'm working with some of those, especially to be able to create those packages. Because I realize once you've already done safari, or if people do safari one day, if you're Kenyan, you're very unlikely to do it every day. So
Sure.
they are more likely to say, okay, let me come with my group of friends, and this is what we want to do. So that's what I want to do. Try and create that.
Well, Alfrida, Kenya is very lucky to have you, Alfrida
Thank
Boinett.
you. Thank you.
Traveling and bringing back what you see in other places to where you live, and serving the needs of the locals with your own personal brand of wellness. So thank you so much for joining us today. It was fascinating to listen to that, and I can't wait to see where you take your business next.
Thank you so much, Lisa.